What up, homies of the interwebs? This is lugnuts.guapo coming at you from Longhorn Harley-Davidson, and today we have a 2017 Indian Chieftain and a 2017 Street Glide Especial. And I've personally never ridden a Chieftain outside of a parking lot, so I'm really excited about this experience and compare it to the 17 Street Glide. Obviously this is a little bit outdated since the 19s are out, but you know what, as far as I know, there's not a lot of changes in both models, other than like on a special you get a lot of cosmetic stuff like blacked out motor, stretch bags, upgraded touchscreen or infotainment system, and just they'll do that here and there. And obviously the 114 is stock on a special as well. As far as I know, the Indian, I'm not an Indian connoisseur, but as far as I know, the Indians all come with the 111, and I don't believe that's changed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the aesthetics most definitely have changed. Outside of that, I don't know. So this is really more of me writing it and giving you my opinion. So yeah, and as far as I know, I think the Indian has a monoshock frame versus this, which has the traditional the swing arm with the two shocks, which you can't really see because of the bags. And yeah, so anywho, roll the tape. So we're gonna start out with this Indian. Right off the back, and this is just subjective, but I've never liked what they look like. If you look at the new models, it really looks similar to a Street Glide, and that really bothers me that it's that close in design. I mean, it is different. They have different lines, but they're really close in design. The older ones, I just think they're hideous. The newer ones, I actually kind of like, but that's mainly because it looks like that. One of my biggest complaints about Indian in general is like this. It's just it just screams victory. First of all, second of all, I mean, it looks like plastic. It feels like plastic. It is plastic. And not that I'm not saying that Harley is all metal, because it isn't. But this big block right here, it just doesn't look good. And the other thing is, like, these bags are actually kind of cool. I like that the buttons up top, kind of like the new Heritage, push and open. This right here, this chrome piece feels really solid. I believe it's metal. It feels like metal. And so are these latches. But look at that. The bag itself feels really cheap, so that's unfortunate. I do like that mechanism, but that's something that Harley has as well, not on their baggers, but on their softer, like their Heritage. Let's see, what else? This right here, the infotainment area, it's massive. It feels a little awkward to me, and again, this is subjective because it's just how it feels and looks. It kind of goes over the tank. I don't know that I like that or prefer that, but we'll get into that a little bit more once we get on the road. And again, 111, I believe it's a 6-speed. I don't know. Oh, there it is, big 111. Whoa. Anywho, I'm done talking. All right. Get this thing started. So spaceship, and button there. All right, that's ready to go. definitely makes a lot of electronic noises that make it feel like a spaceship. I feel like it's it's really funny because in the Street Glide, I already felt like the screen was in my face. It definitely feels way closer to my face right there. It's actually kind of annoying. That's just, I get personal opinion. Oh man, it's chilly today. Whew. Now, one of the things that, again, I'll point out the stuff that I like first. The engine actually has pretty decent power. I mean, it is a 111. It doesn't feel as torquey as a Milwaukee 8, but I'm not gonna say that it's gonna smoke this. At least that's not what it feels like at the moment. Man, it's chilly. I don't know if I want to get on the highway. Woo! This one, I mean, the things that this has that a regular Harley wouldn't have, and when I say that, I'm comparing it to a Street Glide Special, is that this thing has all the stuff that a CVO would have on a Harley, but because they did that, they kind of took away some of the other stuff. So I know you can make this windshield go up. I don't know how to do that. Let's see, is it this number? Oh! Oh, snap! Wow, that actually does do quite a difference. I like that. I do. I think that's a nice little feature. And now my camera's pointing at the sky, but I can fix that here in a second. So, like I said, CVO options that you get on a Harley CVOs, you get standard here, but because they did that, they sacrificed a couple things I'll point out here shortly. Let's make this go up. Alright, we're still recording. Anywho, and tire pressure gauges, the locks right there, you can do that, or on the fob itself, it has locks, so that's kind of cool. This little windshield aspect of it is pretty cool. It's actually, it kind of comes across as gimmicky, but it really is, and I think it does make a difference. Look at these controllers. Look how massive they are. I mean, it feels like a metric bike. It's sad to say, but it feels like a metric bike, just with how massive and cheap that looks. Now, in this review, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. I love all motorcycles. I've ridden all kinds of motorcycles, and not all my favorite motorcycles are Harleys. Even though I work for a Harley dealership, again, this is my own opinion, not Longhorn Harley-Davidson's opinion. This is just, again, me writing and reviewing. So it seems like the RPM gauge is pretty close to what Harley's is. Like, it looks like right around 55. It's like your top end. I'm in 4th gear, 3500 RPM, doing about 65. Gearing is not bad. I will say the ride itself, the seat is comfortable. I don't know that the shock itself, because it is a motor shock from what I understand, is I'm pretty sure it just feels a little stiff. I'm pretty sure you can arrange for that to be a little softer. I don't think it's, I mean, and then again, I don't weigh that much either, so that could be something to take into consideration. But the other thing as well is with monoshock frames, there's a lot less flex. Therefore, you can be a little bit more aggressive in the twisties. This bike does feel a little lighter, somewhat. This seems to be I'm not gonna lie, I don't know that I would own one of these because I personally don't like what they look like. I don't like the display, the dash and all that, but if it didn't look like this, I wouldn't mind riding one on the weekend just for fun. Again, I think when it comes to this bike, it really comes to looks, and I can't get over the looks of this bike. If you've seen any of my other videos, you probably have heard me talk about the Heritage in the exact same way. I just don't like the old school kind of look. And again, that's subjective. This motor has pep. I will say, compared to the 107, it doesn't feel like it has that much power. I mean, 107 versus 111. You would think that there would be like a massive difference, but it doesn't feel that way. So the switches on here feel like when you touch them and play with them, it feels exactly the same as it does in a Street Glide with the old setup, because the 19s, they did away with all the switches. It looks really nice and clean. I mean, the screen is not as bright, but I mean, and I have like this solarized thing on my helmet. What's it called? This little windscreen. I can't think this morning. Anywho, it's kind of hard to see it. I mean, I can make out what it says, but it does take a little bit of effort on my behalf. I have to kind of like tilt my helmet down. The sun is not like making it hard to see with that glare. That has a little compass. That's kind of cool. Let's see. I keep wanting to hit the start button thing, and then it's like the turn signal, but it's like a metric bike where it's over here. I think it's kind of neat that Indian is putting a good product out there, because it definitely gives Harley the competition that it needs to stay on its toes. I do like that aspect of it. I don't hate Indian by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not sure that I like how this bike feels. Like, it has like a little bit, like it's lacking a little bit of soul. It's just like, I want to like it, I really do, but there's just, I don't know that motor is like, it doesn't make me feel alive. Not that that matters to you, that's just how it makes me feel. But it feels good. Suspension wise, it definitely feels, it feels different. The way that it handles it feels very different. The seat is actually decently comfortable. The looks, horrible. I give it a flat 0 on looks. I just can't get over any of this. The one thing I do think that this has over the street glide is a little compartment right here. Ta-da! I would rather have my phone right in there. Man, wind is strong. It's kind of blowing me around. I don't know that I get that as easily on a street glide. Man, this motor is so quiet. I look down, I'm already like at 4,500 RPM, and I don't, like, I can feel it, but I can't hear it. It kind of throws me off. So the things that I think this has over a street glide special is automatic locks, which is what you get on a CVO, but that's not like a deal breaker for me. But this little compartment, I think it's a good idea. But then again, you, like on a street glide, you sacrifice that little vent that goes right there if you were to put something like this in it. Indian solution was this little windscreen, which for the most part I think it did a good job. I don't like what it looks like, but I mean, I don't think that it's a deal breaker, because if you have, especially if you wear like a full face like I do, you want the windshield at a certain like height, and you don't really want to change it. It definitely has the power. I think for what you get with the 107, I think it just feels a little more torquey, which is what I feel you need on a big bagger. I keep wanting to push that button for a turn signal. But I feel like all that they spent in, like, all the extra stuff that they put on here that would be on a CVO, that's great. But the downside of that is that you get some cheap plastic parts all over the place and ugly controllers, and I think that's where they might have dropped the ball. And that is just me. So let's move on to the street glide. All right. Oh, that's a nice truck. Got warmer all of a sudden. Street glide special. As I was mentioning earlier, most definitely that 107 has more torque, no questions about it. Oh, that's some fat tires. Holy smokes. You probably takes that to the drag strip on the weekends. So this bike, the street glide special, I don't know what the clearances are, the differences are, but this feels like it sits a lot lower. Woo! I always forget with the 107, it's really easy to make that rear tire come loose. And every time I just want to like pass like an RV like that, make sure that I get out of the way and I floor it, I just feel that little that rear tire wanting to come out from under me. On the Indian, I don't think that I could do that. I do feel like it might have more of a top end power than on the low end like this does. But right off the gate, I think the suspension on this is much more comfortable. I don't know, handling wise, I have a sneaking suspicion that monoshock might be better. But I'm not 100% sure, because then again, I am nowhere near twisties out here in Grand Prairie. But let's see, when we were at the stoplight, this stoplight earlier, I literally was just messing with the little windshield that came up because it was too low, and I just gave it all kinds of buffeting on my helmet. I haven't had that problem, and this windshield is shorter, so a lot of people think that this little vent right here, this open and closed vent, doesn't make a huge difference. I personally haven't, like, I've seen the benefits of that, and just now getting to this light, I didn't feel buffeting on my helmet, so I think it does make a difference. But again, I guess it depends on where you are, where the winds are coming, all that stuff. So, but at the same time, you're paying for a little mechanism that's gonna like lift the windshield up and down when it's just one button right there, one touch. I think that's simpler. I think that's one of those things that if that breaks, this is going to be cheaper to replace than an electronic mechanism. It is cool, but it seems like Harley went this route because it's probably cheaper and more efficient and easier to fix and harder for it to break. I don't know that for a fact. That's just what it seems. It is simpler. There's no electronics involved at all, period. So the other thing is the screen. Like I was mentioning earlier, that screen was like right in my face, and so I actually kind of had to like tilt my head down a little bit to see it. And the funny thing is that that screen is actually lower. It is a lot lower, but just by like not even have to move my head down, I can just kind of look down real quick, and the screen is actually quite clear. Now once I turn around and go and had the sun in my face, I'll try that again, because to be fair, that's when I actually paid attention to that on the Indian. But on the highway, I'm about 65 miles an hour. I'm in, let's see, now I'm in 5th gear, but I'm like below 3,000 RPM. So the gearing seems to be somewhat the same. Now this is a lot more pleasant to look at. It's kind of, I mean, the funny thing is, like, I like roguelites. I like my screens afar. The screen is most definitely further away on the street glide than it is on the Indian. And even though you would say that you want the screen closer because you can actually touch it and like it's easier, you don't have to like stretch over like I would on a street glide. The buttons, look how simple these buttons are. They're easier to reach. They're easier to get a hold of. So you can already tell just by comparing the last one, on the Indian, these are very small, compact. They're not massive and obnoxious. Like literally one toggle switch on this one, toggle switch on this one, and cruise control right there. That's the one cool thing about when they did the Project Rushmore. Everything was one touch, everything was within reach. Of course, the screen being the the one thing that is not quite within reach. I actually have to stretch over. I'm about 6 foot, give or take. And yeah, on the Indian, you most definitely have it like right in front, but I think that's actually not the best option, because if you can't like handle everything from the switches without having to let go of the handlebars, I think that might be a little bit of an issue. And I think most definitely this is probably easier to handle with the switches than having to reach over and touching the screen, although it is a very sensitive screen. And the new one is most definitely better than what this is, and this is actually not a bad option. Yeah, there's just so much more low-end torque on the 107. Then if you're buying a Chieftain as well, that's something you might consider. With the 2019 Harley-Davidson Street Glide, you get a stock 114. That's and a lot of people don't think that there's a big difference, but there is. You can definitely feel the difference with a 114. The reason I didn't compare it with this, I feel like it would have been a little bit unfair to compare a 2017 Chieftain to a 2019 Harley-Davidson Street Glide Special. And both of them actually are stock, like unadulterated. There's nothing, not even cosmetics. This is as stock as it gets. And honestly, like, 3 things. This is definitely way more pleasing to the eye. It just is, and it is subjective, but come on, you can't tell me that Chieftain looks nice. There's a reason why the new ones look very similar to the Street Glide. It just looks better. Now, the plastic on the bags, the plastic that you see in a Harley, it just feels thicker, it feels more solid. And I will give to Indian, like the latches and like the mechanisms to open the bags, they feel very solid, they're very much metal. Come on, let me in, let me in. But when they did that, spending the extra money on doing that, they sacrificed on the thickness of the walls of the bags, and it feels absolutely cheap. Oh, get there. Anywho, so what else? What else do we have to say about this? The seat is very comfortable. So yeah, number one, this is where it looks way better. Number two, the motor definitely has way more torque. I think I prefer torque for something that is as heavy and big as this is. Not to say that the Indian has a bad motor or that it doesn't perform. I think it does very well for a V12. I mean, it's a 111. The way that 111 performs versus this 107 are completely different. And for touring, it just makes sense that you would want something that has more torque to move that massive weight around, especially on highway. And number three, there is a bigger Harley network in the United States. Customer service all around is fabulous. It is fantastic. I mean, anywhere you go, most likely you'll find a Harley dealer, if not some shop that works on Harleys. Can't really say the same about Indian. That's mainly because there isn't that many out there, and it is pretty brand new. I mean, it's been around for a couple of years now, but it's still relatively new. I mean, Harley has been around for a lot longer and actually stayed afloat. Granted, they've done several things to stay afloat, like they sold it to AMF, which they didn't quite make the best of products, but it kept the company afloat, got bought back, and now we have better quality motorcycles like we do today. But not that I really talked about that on this ride, but I definitely think that's something to consider, especially if you like your bike breaks down. You want something that would be easy to fix, and this would be easier to fix, quote unquote, because you would find a shop closer to you, and there's so many of these motorcycles out there. So I don't know that that's a fair point. Is it? I don't know. Let me know. Comment below, and if you haven't already, subscribe and turn that notification bell on, and also follow us on Instagram, that is at Longhorn_HD, and on Facebook as Longhorn Harley-Davidson. Also check us out on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/ML-HD, and on iTunes or the podcast app on your iPhone as MLHD, one word. And yeah, if you want to test ride this beast, call us here at 972-988-1903 and schedule a test ride, make it yours, and get some wind therapy. Hey, later. Slow down and back it up. Put this baby in neutral.